What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Crypto Catch Up with me, Benny. Now today we're going to be doing a video on IoT Blocks. It's a universal Internet of Things blockchain registry. So what does that mean? Well, let's check it out. Alright, so what is IoT Blocks? Well, IoT Blocks is the first universal Internet of Things blockchain registry. Now, things, that should be with a plural. With real-time device health reports and a fully trustless, decentralized infrastructure for IoT devices to access smart contracts securely on any blockchain. Well, what does that really mean for you and I? Well, effectively, we're starting to see this big concept of smart contracts and also that of oracles. Now, oracles, if you're not already aware and you're a first-time viewer, enables real-time information from the outside world or the real world to be passed into the blockchain and be fed into things like smart contracts to be able to find whether something has been found true or what the data was related to at the time. So for example, if you have an insurance company and you have a car policy and if you were speeding, then you would not be to be paid out that policy. We would be able to use that sensor information or an internet connected device to work out whether that was actually true or false, and obviously a raft of other sensory kind of information to help guide the process and to make sure we're actually fulfilling, or companies are actually fulfilling, their obligations when things are found true, such as an insurance policy. So what this essentially is doing is grouping together or making available any IoT device around the world, any blockchain that utilizes such information, and making it available to smart contracts to categorize them very simply. Currently, for me to go out and build a particular platform, for example, logistics, I would need to go and integrate with all these suppliers along the way with particular RFID tags, QR codes, etc. What this effectively is doing is saying, well, hey, we'll collate all of this for you and give you kind of like a cataloged version of all of these devices around the world. You'll be able to check health reports and all of that sort of thing to make sure the data at the time is correct. And you can use that in your smart contracts to then perform whatever you want on your particular blockchain platform. So this is a kind of a nice little thing. So the Internet of Things, if you aren't aware, Cisco back in 2011 said that it's going to be 50 to 100 billion internet enabled or connected devices, such as these small sensory devices, by 2020. And the Data 61 or the CSIRO here in Australia, have said that that's going to be about $14.5 trillion industry by 2025. So that's big bucks, a lot of money. Now, IoT Blocks is saying that it's going to be hardware, software, and blockchain for IoT. So they're doing the whole complete suite. So not only are they going to partner with other companies who already have IoT devices out there, kind of like what XYO Network is doing there, but they're going to be able to build their own hardware themselves and provide a blockchain solution for that. So what their real kind of standpoint is the fact that it's the first universal Hypercat PAS212 registry. Now, what is that? Now, anytime you see like PAS212 or numbers like that, you kind of think standards. What is this? Well, Hypercat is exactly that. It's a global alliance. It's a consortium of, businesses and like-minded thinkers, governments or otherwise, that are all working together effectively to create an interoperability standard for machine-to-machine communication for IoT devices. That's pretty cool, because by using this interoperability standard, effectively what it allows them to do is catalog everything and to make it available to a web-based interface. So it's effectively something that works on an application layer, but also on the platform layer. it also allows then a simple API call, an application programming interface, in a JSON format to ping something and go, what's the information relating to this device right now, and get a response quite quickly, feed that back into the smart contract, and off you go. So currently they have offices in the US of A and Asia, and they've partnered recently with a hardware specialist in IoT, which is actually rolling out 500 smart convenience stores in China. So sensory information everywhere, and obviously tracking that information is highly important in terms of, you know, groceries, milk, and other products like that, as we're all knowing is important with blockchain technology at the moment, with the provenance of particular food types and, you know, pharma and all that kind of stuff. So let's take a look at their history. Well, as you can see, 2004 is the start of this kind of company, and they've got a good kind of, you know, background that's led them up into this point and where, you know, blockchain has started to be realized for these kind of applications. So they, you know, were initially a hardware and RFID manufacturer. They then became a Zigbee IoT provider. So Zigbee are like home devices, connected home, aged care kind of, you know, things where you would use sensory information there. Then they moved into ultra frequency high frequency and ultra high frequency inlays and different labels, cold chain logistics back in 2013. So think modem or mod. That's exactly what they're doing, but obviously without the blockchain back then, and so on and so forth, to where we get right now in 2018. They've released a MVP, so a minimum viable product, on the Ethereum network as a testnet. And now they're moving forward for building out their platform, mainnet, global roadshow, etc. So what's the technical side of things, and where does this, you know, all play out? Well, effectively, we know that they're trying to make a sharing of IoT device information on a blockchain accessible. Other than that, though, there is actually no white paper at present, so we don't know the technicalities of how the blockchain is going to interact with that, what its actual utility is going to be, but we can make some fair assumptions with this. So how are they achieving this? Really, the big part, like I said before, is the fact that they're utilizing Hypercat. Hypercat has an Australian arm to it, so even better for us here in Australia. But it does effectively allow you to ping a server, and it will send you a list of resources to a client. So I'd be the client on my computer, bing, 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 bing. I'm going to send a transaction from A to B. If it has these sorts of, you know, attributes within the smart contract, ping these Oracle servers, find out what that actual IoT information is at the time, if it's true, false, or otherwise, and then execute that contract accordingly. So Hypercat is open source, it's multi-language, Java, Node.js, Python, a raft of other things. So it's a really good, you know, decentralized kind of application to be applied to. So Hypercat there makes sense in this circumstance because we're talking about Ethereum. Now, there is no talk whether obviously they're going to use their own platform later on, or they're just going to build this on top of Ethereum. We'll wait and see. And then down the bottom there, they have got their own smart contract shown on their website. It's quite a lengthy smart contract, and the GitHub is available, even though there is no white paper or anything like that at the point in time. So technically, other than that, there's nothing really that we know about the project. But if we talk IoT and we talk, you know, Hypercat in this circumstance, which is, like I'm saying, a catalog of all the available IoT devices around the world, which they've partnered with or they've built themselves, it kind of enables you to plug and play as a blockchain solution, let's say in the supply chain, and call, you know, this particular platform. Or of course, they might be saying, well, we're going to allow you to build out your own later on. We don't know that yet. But effectively, it makes it very simple to build out smart contracts with actual smarts. You know, that oracleized external reference data that makes it worthwhile, that really takes us that next step. Because at the moment, like I said, it's something that you as a company would have to be coming up with yourself, purchasing that equipment, etc., which these guys are going to say they're going to support the hardware, the software, the whole kit and caboodle. So let's have a look at the team in the advisory. So if we start looking at some of the names underneath, we got Berkeley, Kodak, Plaque, Google, VMware, Nokia, Samsung, Sega, etc. So we got some pretty big names in here. Now, if you go in and you check out their LinkedIn profiles, some of them aren't as outstanding as you may expect. Some of them are just, basic kind of roles that they've had in those companies over the years, not in senior levels or anything like that. But it seems as a whole that they've had a large range of C-suite experience, CEO, that kind of thing. But they're really lacking in that, core team development. There's no development prowess jumping out at me. Richard down the bottom, he definitely has great experience. His LinkedIn profile is up to date, and that's probably the biggest concern I have with the other team members. Some of them just aren't as up to date as others, and it makes it harder to understand the real, tangible outcomes that these team members have had in the past. So let's move on and have a look at the advisory. This advisory board here, once again, very strong. You've got NEM, TomoChain, Acer, WeChat, big companies working in this space. So that I'm super, bullish on the fact that their advisory team is solid in this regard. And hopefully they can bring about that development or finding the right development team to build this platform out. The good thing is that, with, Hypercat and all of that, it's open source. So there's going to be people that can code that any day of the week. It's not like it's a Solidity or Rust or something that's, newer in the market that not everyone has experience with. So overall, team and advisory looks pretty good. Obviously, it's just about that development side of things for me from there. So token distribution. So once again, this is another project where there's no white paper and there's no actual current pre-sale or whitelisting going on. And I'm sure that if you were to get in contact with a team, if you are interested, there might be some opportunity for private sale investors. Effectively, what they're saying at the moment is, hey, we don't really care for an ICO right now. We're trying to build our partnerships. We're trying to build out our platform, just like you would expect from an IPO and somebody actually doing the work first. So claps and applauses to them, because that is honorable and I do like that. Now, what are my final thoughts on this? Well, for it, they've got that MVP without an ICO. That's tops. That's what we like to see. IoT is a massive industry, so you can't cut them down from that. They're taking it head on and they're providing a real, use case there with collating these IoT devices into one logical location. They have a solid reputation, so that company history that we looked at through and through, and obviously the experience related to that over the years, and they're saying that they've got that mainnet coming this year without large talks of, large capital being raised or anything. And like I said earlier, the advisory is strong. So what's against them? Well, like I said, it may not be against them. It may just not be something that they're showing at the moment. And that's just, there's not enough dev prowess being shown off to make me go, yep, they've got great thinkers, they've got great executive level, but who are the people actually on the ground doing the work? I always like to see companies proud to show those kind of individuals off, because they're doing, the hours in those, dark, dingy rooms, and they deserve to be shown off. They're doing a great thing for you. So hopefully we can see some of that moving forward. And the unknown. So we don't have a white paper. We don't know what the actual utility of a token will be on this. Now, and that leads me to understand, or wonder, what's the use of a blockchain here? So really, they have a platform where you're allowed to ping a server to find out a particular URI or URL in this case of a IoT device in a collated fashion. Hypercat makes that available. So really, if they were providing a platform, they could do this with any business model. whereby they could use a pub sub, so public, subscription kind of based model where I, as an individual or company, could pay IOT Blocks some money for access to that platform to be able to ping these servers or etc. etc. Now, I thought about it for a little while without knowing any other information, and then there was something that came to light. Well, would you want this to be on a centralized server? So for example, if a large number of blockchain companies actually started to use this platform, they wouldn't want the server that is actually providing them access to these IoT devices effectively to be shut down. Because if a smart contract was built specifically to be able to call that data or that endpoint of the IoT device, and it wasn't able to because a centralized server was DDoSed or otherwise, you have a problem for those smart contracts being able to execute. Something therefore could go wrong, contracts not paid out, people not paid, etc., 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 for the billions of use cases that can be for smart contracts. So in that circumstance, I went, yes, this applies to a business world, but hell, this could actually be worthwhile on a blockchain, on a decentralized network where no one can actually shut down these endpoints. And that's probably the biggest thing that I could see worthwhile in that circumstance. So overall, guys, I actually think it's a really good idea. I think the team is strong. We'll wait, obviously, for that white paper. An ICO, I would assume, will definitely come up at the later part of the year. But, it's all just guessing right now. Overall, great project, and I look forward to seeing more information with this one, and hope you guys can follow this one too, because it's certainly a huge industry. As always, guys, if you can like and subscribe, maybe even tick on that little alert button, and check out my new videos as I put them out. Soon we'll be going to Sydney for a conference there. I'll actually be emceeing as well, so we'll try and get you some content around that, have a chat to a couple of the people there while I'm there, and get some content back for that. Awesome, guys. You enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in.